Welcome to the Kidlit Club with Sally Rippon and Adrian Beck.
The Kidlit Club with Sally Rippon and myself.
And Adrian Beck.
That's right.
Good to be here.
It is great to be here for another episode, and we're so close to Easter. As this is going out, it's almost Easter time. So Sal's brought along some of her favourite treats there. In fact, there was 2 bowls, so I don't know what happened to the first bowl. Oops. Fair enough. Now, brings me to thinking about seasonal books.
Yeah. Books
that obviously, Christmas and Easter and Halloween and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been any Billy B. Brown seasonal books?
Yeah, they have. And sometimes seasonal books can work really well. Like, I think publishers have to take a little bit of a... They have to know that if it's a seasonal book, that they're going to sell a bucket load of them, because they often don't sell at other times of the year. So they either have to know that it'll be one that will last every Christmas for 10 years, if it's a classic, or that it's just going to sell buckets of them. So the other thing that can be problematic about seasonal books, which I've certainly found with the Billy series, is I did have a couple of Christmas ones, but in other parts of the world, Christmas is celebrated in different ways. Some cultures don't celebrate Christmas. So they're often not taken for that reason too, because they are quite specific to a place and time. So sometimes they can work, but I think they're slightly more risky than just more classic stories.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I suppose it's just another hook to get kids interested in reading.
Yeah.
It's Christmas time or Easter time. I know my girls love Spot's Easter because they get to lift the flap and find all the eggs.
Great.
So I guess it's just another hook, isn't it, to get kids interested? But yeah, with publishers, they'd have to think, right, now's the time, because any other time of the year, people aren't going to be that interested, I guess.
And look, if you're writing Spot books, obviously you can read them all year round. Yeah. But if it was your very first book, they might not take it on because, maybe Joe Blow, they have no idea who he is, and so why would they pick up a book about a dog and Easter?
Interesting. Yeah. Now, speaking of Easter, I've got a little something for you, Sal. Now, I need you to close your eyes.
Oh, no.
Because I have...
hold out my hands to tell my kids.
Got this wonderful... Well, I don't know if it's wonderful, to be honest. I've got this new product that I want you to try.
Okay.
And tell me if you can... I'm going to just put a couple in your hands there.
All right.
Fact,
do I need to put it in my mouth?
You need to put it in your mouth.
Before I look at it?
And I want you to put it in your mouth, taste them, and tell me what flavour they're meant to be.
Smells like M&Ms.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. So we'll reveal that they're M&Ms, but what flavour M&Ms?
Okay, so I just pull one out for now.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Give it a bit of a taste. Run it across the front of the palate, the back of the palate, sides of the palate.
Oh.
And tell me if you can, what flavour are they meant to be?
Something else is coming out.
Yeah. What do you think?
Strawberry?
No, not strawberry, but it is the,
think of the
time of year.
Ah.
And does anything come to mind?
Blossom?
Blossom.
I keep coming up with...
Oh, is it coming to you?
But it's not strawberry.
It's not strawberry. Well, I think that's a bit of... You can open your eyes and you can have a look at what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be hot cross bun flavour.
Sorry.
So if you're getting involved in the hot cross bun M&Ms, hopefully you like strawberry flavour as well.
Yeah, no.
Didn't quite come through.
Unless that's what synthetic hot cross buns taste like. No, yummy all the same because they're M&Ms, but I didn't pick hot cross bun.
Okay, fair enough. well, we'll turn that feedback straight back to the M&M manufacturers. Whilst we tell you what else is on the show, Adam Cece, he has written some awesome books, and he is going to be on. He's going to be chatting later on with us about the extremely weird things that happen at Huggable Falls.
Huggabee, I think.
Huggabee, I should say. Huggabee. Yeah. Huggabee Falls.
Yeah.
We
practiced his last name, just not the title.
That's right. Got to practice both next time. Also, there's going to be a Rippon report, which I love.
No, that's what the Wiggles do, isn't it? I have to come up with a different catchphrase.
The Rippon report. Oh, okay. The Rippon report. It's just not working.
All right, we didn't practice this, obviously.
It should have something to do with you being Rippon, an R, I don't know. Oh, yes, the Rippon report. Anyway, we'll get to that. And it's always a surprise what it's going to be.
Yeah, it is. So, often for me too. Yeah.
So I can't wait to see that. And also, as I said, Adam Cece. So we'll and some social media watch as well.
Good.
So,
which is your forte, really.
It is. I've been watching everything going on in the world of Kidlit, social media wise, and I found something kind of interesting. I think that we'll all like. Anyway, it's time for us to get on with the with one of my favourite segments ever, the Rippin' Report.
The Rippin' Report. And on this edition, Sally chats with Kate O'Donnell about the media coverage of kids' books.
So I thought you'd be a really good person to chat with about this, Kate, because you work in lots of areas of children's book publishing. You're a writer, you work in children's bookstore, and you're also at Scribe.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you divide up your week and how you manage all of those things?
At the moment I'm doing 3 days a week at Scribe, editing picture books and working on production there, which is really exciting. And 1 to 2 days a week at the bookshop in Yarraville, children's bookshop.
That's the Sun bookstore.
The younger Sun bookshop.
Yep.
And I fit in writing where I can around that.
And you've got a young adult novel, Untidy Town.
That's right.
And do you have anything else on the way?
I do. It's been a little delayed, but it hopefully will come out next year.
So it's done. It's just got to be published and out. Yeah.
It's got to be finished.
It's written. Oh, you haven't finished it. Okay. Fantastic. And so we thought it would be good to chat with you about getting coverage of kids' books in the media, because there was a little bit of a post, I think, that got a little conversation happening about this and how difficult it is to get any coverage of kids' books at all. So do you have some insight into this and maybe why these books aren't being covered?
Well, it's something I've been interested in for a really long time and been very angry about for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to let go of the anger because it's not productive.
No, it's got to be very zen about these things.
And so I keep being told the children's books are not reviewed in the paper because children don't read newspapers. And it just makes me feel so confused, because children don't read newspapers, that's true, but their parents do. Children also don't buy their own books. Their parents buy their books for them, or at least a part of the book buying process. And so I just think, wouldn't a Saturday spread with a book for mum, a book for your parents and a book for the children be the most wonderful thing? You could all go to the bookshop afterwards or to the library and choose a book based on what you've read in the paper.
Because as a children's bookseller, you would have a lot of people coming in to ask advice on what to buy, because like you say, the children are reading the books, but they're not the ones that are buying them. So adults need to educate themselves in this way. You maybe hear of the top 5 bestsellers, but how do you find out about the other books?
And that's what happens every week at the shop. Parents will come in and say, my child's read all the Undos, he's read all the Andys, what is next? And we're able to sort of show them all the smaller books and the books they might not have heard about, and the parents are so grateful. And I just think you need to get this information from somewhere, and the children have their school libraries, so often they'll have an idea and be able to share it with their parents. And that's our main job, is showing books that aren't the top 5 bestsellers.
And even a lot of schools are getting rid of specific teacher librarians and creating technology rooms, as opposed to, which is a whole other argument again. But it is that thing about how can we find out what books our kids would be interested in reading if we don't have this information available. So what is available so far for finding out about what kids' books are out there and what your particular child might like?
The Herald Sun does post usually 2 reviews of children's books, reviews by children, which I think is wonderful as well.
I didn't know
that. And I don't know if they do it every week, but I do see it fairly often in the paper. At the bookshop we get all the newspapers and look through them, so we can make sure we know what's been advertised and put them on display or to be aware. There are newspapers around the country. When I did post a few things on Twitter about this and had some responses from people around the country saying, no, my local newspaper reviews children's books. So
so
in Adelaide,
papers,
so maybe some smaller papers, so one of the ones in South Australia and a few others. So it isn't across the board, but I just think we've got the Sydney Morning Herald. We never see children's books reviewed in there.
No. And what percentage of the market is children's books, do you know?
Yes, I do. So recently the Nielsen book scan data came out for last year, and it indicated that 44% of Australian book sales are children's books.
Wow.
Which is extraordinary. We keep sort of talking about how book sales are declining or jumping and which categories are up and down, but children's books is a huge part of the market.
Yeah.
And it's so underrepresented in reviews and also in we talk about festivals around the country.
Yeah.
There are some really great dedicated children's festivals,
Yeah.
but rarely do children's books and children's authors get on the mainstream panel.
So what are some of the, for example, if there's somebody listening to this right now and wants to know where to get this information from, what are some of the good blogs that you'd recommend, or some of the good social media sites that people should go to?
There's some great hashtag #LoveAusYA.
Yes.
So that's a hashtag you can follow on all social media, which will help you find books for teenagers. And I think there's a hashtag
MG?
Middle grade MG. For all Australian books, and you'll find some really great bloggers who will be able to help you with international books as well, because we don't want to just read Australian books.
Yeah. There's that great Your Kids Next Read.
Your Kids Next Read,
The
I only
Megan-
just recently discovered.
It's
great.
really good. Yeah.
And there's a Kindling radio channel that they talk about
right.
kids' books and writing as well.
I think Megan Daly has a really
Megan
good
Daly's got Children's Book Daily.
Yep. Well, I also have a once monthly show on Triple R that specifically speaks just about children's books, interviewing people from the children's book industry, because I feel really like yourself, quite passionately about that.
Yeah.
That unless you're able to access a really good children's bookseller or a great children's librarian, it's really hard to know what your kids would be into.
Yeah.
So what can we do to change this? Have you got some ideas?
My ideas are sort of slow and steady, and I
Yes.
think I'm trying to accept the slow and steady.
Yep.
So I'm just talking with anyone that I can. I find that the book industry is very small, and it overlaps with like media and journalism.
Yeah.
And if we all sort of understand that we're in for the same reason, hopefully we can make
I think
people
that-
hear us.
That is really important, isn't it? Because I do think it is such a symbiotic industry that we all rely on each other. You know,
Exactly.
booksellers rely on us, on authors to create good books. We need great publishers who are going to find these really great books to publish, and we
Exactly.
need the booksellers to sell our books. None of us can exist without
and
each
this
other.
industry is not only tiny, but it overlaps.
Yeah.
So people are working, like me, people are working in all parts of the industry, and it's going to be easy to support one another.
Yeah, great. Good. Well, let us know what we can do. How do we follow you, Kate, if we want to get online and kind of get involved in getting
So
a bit more media
I'm on
coverage for
Twitter
books?
at
Yep.
Reading Kate,
Yep.
and also on Instagram. And come and talk to me at the bookshop if you come in.
Which is your bookshop
At the
day?
Younger Sun Bookshop. I'm there usually on the weekends. It changes.
Great. There's always good people in there. Anyway.
There's always amazing people, and
Yeah.
we're all trying to do the same thing.
Fighting the good fight. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you, Sal. Another great Rip and Report.
Doing my best out there in the world.
You are. You're excellent. And there'll be more Rip and Reports in the coming episodes, which we
Yes.
look forward to.
Yep.
But right now, it's time for this.
Social Media Watch.
Yes, we're talking all about social media in the world of Kidlit. And I have found, and I'm sure you're probably following this account as well, on Instagram, Scott Edgar.
Yeah.
Now, Scott Edgar is 1/3 of Tripod, the
Yep.
great comedy
So good.
singers.
Tripod is the
They were
best.
hilarious, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
And I think they were recently doing a tour with an orchestra, which would have been amazing to see as well.
I didn't get to see any of that.
Yeah.
But no, they're really funny. I think they were kind of doing. I mean, there's people who've done comedy style musical things. What am I trying to say? Like a kind of a Flight of the Conchords thing,
Yes, yeah.
where they're all super talented, but because they're so hilarious, it's hard to take them seriously.
Yeah.
But I love them.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, Tripod are great, and one member of them is, as we said, Scott Edgar, and he also illustrated the wonderful series that was from Sally Rippon Presents,
Yeah.
which was the
Super
Moopers,
Moopers.
the Super Moopers,
Yeah.
which Fiona Harris also had a
Yes.
lot to do with, and
Yep.
was the author on that. And they're excellent illustrations. But I've been following Scott Edgar's Instagram account, and he does a lot of sketches. Like wherever Scott is, he'll sit down. I think he might do it on his iPad, maybe.
I think it's on paper.
It's on paper,
As far
is
as
it?
I know, yeah.
Every
He's-
single day there's a new one.
Yep, and it's amazing. And the thing that I love about looking at them is it just shows that drawing is a regular practice. You
Yeah.
know, that it is something you have to do. I was very good at drawing in art school, and I went for years without drawing. And then Scott Edgar and I actually went to a life drawing class together, and I realized, because I hadn't done that kind of drawing for such a long time, that I was the worst person in the class. And it was really confronting, because it was something that I thought was a skill that didn't go away.
Yeah.
So I think just even by seeing how dedicated he is to drawing was really inspiring for me, realizing that it is a daily practice. You have
Yeah.
to, and you train your eye to look at the way that shapes and things come together, light and shade. And so his is a lot about line, but it's about character and movement and the weight, you know, that might be on one leg over another. And so they're really good to study if you're interested in drawing as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
What I like is that he seems to spot a character, wherever he is, he spots a character.
Yeah.
Like someone who looks slightly unusual or is slouching in a funny way or something like that, and he sketches them. So, you know, if you ever see Scott Edgar in a cafe and he keeps looking at you, and he sort of looks down then looks up at you again, and you're probably being sketched.
Yeah, he might appear on social media
That's right.
with an extra big nose or something like that. So they're slightly caricatured, but not really. You know, I love them. Check them out.
Yeah, check them out. And also, Sally, he's helped you a lot with using your iPad for doing...
Yeah. In fact, I have Scott to thank for teaching me how to draw on an iPad, because I'll tell you the secret.
What's the secret? He's a secret. I love it when she tells all the secrets.
So I had my polyembusted deadline to do my artwork, and normally all the artwork is done in charcoal, and charcoal is very, very time consuming because you have to put layers of fixative in between.
Yeah, and pretty
each layer.
dirty.
And really dirty. It takes up a lot of space. And I had this really, really tight deadline. I went into a total panic. I thought, there's no way I'm going to get all this work done. Plus the school holidays fell in the middle of it. So I remembered Scott had said that he would give me some tutorials on the iPad. And we did a few sessions together. And I would be really interested to know when the book comes out whether you can tell the difference.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the first two Polyembusters were done charcoal in real life, and the third one that's about to come out
is on an iPad?
Was done on an iPad.
Yeah.
So all the charcoal drawings, and they look like charcoal drawings.
Yeah, look, in some
it's all virtual.
Yeah, and
wow.
I'm still using the same techniques. You know, you're still thinking about line and shade, and there's charcoal brushes that you can use, and so the effect is very, very similar. A quarter of the time.
Really?
And I could take it away with me when we're on school holidays, so I can work, you know, when my son's in the pool or something like that. Just revolutionised my life. And so many illustrators I know are moving onto the iPad. Procreate is the software, and it's an Australian one. It's really cheap. It's like $17 for the app or something.
I think it was actually a couple of Tasmanian developers.
It's just brilliant, and it has seriously. I mean, I love drawing on paper, and I would never give it up completely. But insofar as getting work done and being able to, for me it was being able to really get in the detail, which is really hard to do with charcoal. So I'm actually almost happier with the finished work in book 3.
Isn't that amazing?
Because I could really refine it in the way that I wanted to.
Well, I'll be checking out Polyembuster book 3, and I'm going to see if I can tell the difference. I'm sure I can't. So we've got to thank for that. And if you want to check out his Instagram, it's Scodman is fine.
Yeah.
Scodman is fine.
Yeah. Beautiful
Check out
drawing.
those drawings. Okay, now it's time for this. Our special guest. Time for our special guest, and this time around we are talking to Adam Cece, who is behind, this is the first one in the series, and this one's called The Extremely Weird Thing That Happened at Huggiby Falls, which is quite a title, isn't it?
That's right. Tongue twister.
I like it. And I had a chat with Adam Cece because he's got a couple more in that series, and he's a great guy, and here it is. Well, it's an absolute thrill to be joined by Adam Cece, and well, he can't say no. I can almost feel Sally cringing from here, unfortunately. Adam Cece, thank you so much for joining us on the Kid Lit Club. It is Cece, isn't it? It's Cece? Adam Cece?
Yes. It depends who you ask, but Italian people would say Cece. They'd say Cece if you were talking to them. But I've said Cece since I was a little kid, and you know, just to give people some enjoyment of being able to use the can't say no joke. I think it's important.
I think all daggy dads appreciate that, because where would we be without our bad dad jokes?
Gift back to the world. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for that. Now, it all started for you in 2015 with Wesley Booth Super Sleuth.
Yes, Wesley Booth Super Sleuth. Yeah, I've always liked detective books and detective shows. I think a good mystery in a story really drives the story along at a really good pace. And I always love those books where you're trying to work out who done it or the mystery of what's happening throughout the book. And I always wanted to write a cool mystery. I never knew if I'd actually be able to, because I read all these great mystery books and I think, wow, I'll never be able to do a book as good as that. But I'm pretty thrilled. I hope so. Yeah. We'll let the readers decide. But it's I think it came out all right, yeah.
What is the key to a good mystery?
I think the key to good mystery is how much you reveal as you go along. It's a real balancing act of not making it too obvious, but at the same time giving people enough as they go along. So when they get to the end, they say, "Oh, I should have seen that. I should have seen that coming."
So you love the mysteries, and after the mysteries, you won the Text Prize for 2017. Congratulations, Adam Cece.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Yes, that was totally unexpected and just a huge surprise, life-changing moment to win the Text Prize.
And there was over 300 entries in that year's Text Prize, and you came to the top. Well done.
Yes.
I'm wondering, I made a bit of a list of some of the things that might have got you across the line. Was it the killer vampire bats, a pirate who hates pirates, a banana tree that grows microwaves, vegetarian piranhas, a Portuguese-speaking lab rat named Ralph, or the evil villain Felonious Dark? What do you think actually won you the prize out of those things? Or what do you think it was, actually?
I think they all contributed. As you can tell from that, I tried to squeeze as much silliness into a book as is humanly possible. And I think that's what got me over the line, is they thought, well, we're never going to get a book sillier than this. So we better just publish this as the silliest book in all existence and go for it. Yeah, I think they all helped. And,
well, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And all those crazy things add to the fun. But what I also like about it is there's a little bit of Lemony Snicket about it, because you talk to the reader directly a lot of the time. And a lot of the comedy comes from you almost taking the mickey out of yourself at times. So was that always part of it? Did you always want to write a book which directly addressed the reader?
I love books that do that, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned Lemony Snicket, because I don't want to have to do that myself.
That'd be awkward. I'm a bit like Lemony Snicket, you know.
That would be awkward. I don't like to compare myself to someone so successful, but obviously, you know. But I do love Lemony Snicket, and I love books where the author talks directly to the reader like that. I think Terry Pratchett does that. There's a reader, Anonymous Bosch is his name. He, if I said that right, he does that, and there's so many great authors that do that. And I don't know, there's something in that breaking that sort of, they call that breaking the fifth wall. Is that what they call it?
I thought it was breaking the fourth wall, but maybe if it's
fourth wall.
Yeah.
I may have gone one wall too many. Yeah, I think
maybe you're breaking the roof. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's all about a town, Huckabee Falls, which is the weirdest town you could ever imagine. Every street is called the same name. And everyone prides themselves on their weirdness. Is that ultimately, is that something that's important to you in some ways, to get the message out that it's good to be weird?
Definitely. I think that's the main message I try and get across in Huckabee Falls. Amongst all the silliness is a good message about being weird is wonderful, and we should embrace uniqueness a lot more in society.
Absolutely. And
my public announcement,
I like it. I appreciate that. We're going to clip that up and we're going to run it separately. Hey, So this, the Huckabee Falls, it's a trilogy. The latest one's just come out. Releasing 3 books in 1 year would be a lot for anyone, but you've also got your twin spin, your Scholastic book, which just came out as well. So before we get to what that's all about, how do you balance all these manuscripts that you're writing? How do you make it all work?
Well, I used to try and balance, and now I just don't balance. I just and just write into the early hours of the morning most nights. Balance is a bit of a dream. I dream of having a nice balanced existence.
I think we all dream the same dream,
pushing myself to the limit all the time. But I just keep going, keep writing, and they just magically, the funny thing is, if you sit down and keep writing, they just magically happen.
So now I know you're a dad. You've got a boy and a girl, young boy and a girl. I thought maybe you must have twins because of the whole twin spin story. But no, that's not the case. So where did the idea for twins come from? So basically, talk us through the idea of the book, and where did it come from?
Well, Twin Spin is about Steph and Anna, and they're identical twins, and they consider themselves completely different, or they are completely different. Anna is a junior TV reporter on this show called Kids Beat, and Steph is she's very organised and very meticulous with everything, and Steph is this very impulsive, and she's a rapper, and she does all this cool stuff, and but something happens because Steph's trying to meet her favourite boy band, Odd Socks.
Odd Socks, yes, that's right.
Yes, they wear odd socks. That's their gimmick. And she's trying to meet them, and so she disguises herself as Anna for the day. But then something happens. There's an accident, and they have to stay swapped for a week, and all sorts of chaos ensues. But along the way, I think they realise that they're not as different as they first thought. Yes. So, yes, I've always liked twin stories because I always liked the idea of twins. I like the idea if you could be a twin but no one knew about it, and you could both live. Maybe this is something that came about from me being so busy. Is you know how people who do so much, you sort of say someone like yourself who does a lot, or Sally who does so much. Maybe there are two Sallys, and so she's just working 24 hours round the clock, and Sally is really an identical twin.
I reckon there are two Sallys.
He's got everyone fooled.
Yeah. Okay, so Book Week is fast approaching. I know we're at the start of the year, but it'll come pretty quickly. You've got so many books out to talk about. What is an Adam Cece Book Week presentation like?
Oh man, it's the greatest thing you've ever seen. It's amazing.
I'm not surprised. And if anyone's listening, any teacher librarians are listening, it really is the greatest thing you've ever seen.
I'm sure they are. I do lots of things about my life and inspirations. I do a bit of a quiz with kids where I show book titles with the titles removed. A lot of books that inspired me, and I talk about stories and the structure of stories and all that sort of stuff. Just basically I try to be entertaining because I want the kids to come away from it laughing and having fun, I think, above all else. If they can learn something along the way, well, that's good too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Adam, I'm going to ask you 3 hard-hitting questions, which I think would be particularly useful in the classroom, but I think everyone would get something out of these responses, and I know you're going to have some killer responses here, no pressure. So here are 3 questions. Number 1, how do you come up with characters? Do you have any tips for coming up with characters?
Look, I think my characters, they are a little bit of combinations of everyone I know, pretty much. So, warning, if you are a friend or acquaintance of mine,
look out!
End up as a character. I try to combine all the interesting and weird and wonderful things about people that I know into characters.
Yes.
And usually a character will start with a little spark, like my character, Wesley Booth. Originally, one day I was sitting in my kitchen and I saw a lemon on the kitchen counter.
Oh, really?
And you got to see Wesley's head there.
Yeah.
It's shaped like a lemon. The illustrator, Michelle Streech, he drew Wesley's head shaped like a lemon. And
I'm glad you didn't see a banana.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, not a banana. Straight away, I thought about, because I have quite a big head. I don't know if you can see it on the camera.
Not at all.
But the Ceces are known for having big heads. And I straight away thought of a character who had a head shaped like a lemon, and how that would make him perhaps feel a bit insecure about his lemon-shaped head. And his brother, he'd have a meaner older brother that would squeeze his head and try and make lemonade all the time. And so these are, if you know an author, these are the thoughts that are going through their mind when you're sitting there having conversations with them. Because I think my wife was having a conversation with me at the time, unaware that I was thinking about lemons and kids with lemon-shaped heads and older brothers making lemons. But I thought that was a good... and then he would take that big lemon head, his mum would say, well, maybe you have a big brain and you should put that big brain to good use and become a detective. So he was spinning his big head, big brain into being a master detective. So, yeah, that sort of spun in. I know that doesn't really help.
No, that helps a lot.
Characters.
So friends and family, and also sometimes fruit, I guess.
Sometimes fruit. I think spend a lot of time looking at fruit. There's a lot of good character ideas in fruit.
I like it. Number 2, how do you get ideas and keep them flowing? I think that's all about writer's block, the dreaded writer's block. How do you fight that?
Well, I used to get writer's block all the time, and because I think I used to think that you had to wait for inspiration to hit. And I think the only way to get rid of writer's block is really to get writing and sit down and start writing. And many years ago, I went on a writing course, Fiona McIntosh Masterclass, if you're aware of Fiona McIntosh. And she talked about setting yourself writing contracts. So setting up your writing like you were guaranteed you had to write this certain amount of words every day. And if you didn't write them, you had to treat it professionally. You had to treat it like a job and write these words. And you didn't have any choice. You couldn't say, I can't think of anything today. I'm not going to write my words. You just had to go for it and write them down. And I think once you get writing, you keep writing and you get through that writer's block. It's just that pressure you feel to write is what stops you. But if you actually get writing, you'll find that it'll just start to flow and you'll sort of open the floodgates and off you go.
Great advice. Great advice there. The third and final hard-hitting question for you.
Hard-hitting. Yep.
Yeah, hard-hitting. How much do your stories evolve from the initial idea all the way through to hitting the shelves?
I think a huge amount, because I am, have you heard of the term plotters and pantsers? I
have, yes. What are you, a plotter or a pantser?
You are a plotter, aren't you? Because
I'm definitely a plotter.
The last episode of Kidlit, the Kidlit Club, and you said you're a plotter, and I thought, those plotters, their lives must be so great.
Oh, yeah, they are great. Yeah, absolutely.
I am definitely a pantser.
We should explain, probably, Adam, for those that aren't quite familiar with the plotter and pantser. Plotter, we plot it all out. A pantser, like Adam Cece, he flies by the seat of his pants, man. nothing's going to hold him back. He just goes with the flow.
And then he ends up with a huge pile of paper. If you still use paper, he uses a huge pile of paper just to sift through and try and get a decent story out of, try and get a 30,000 word story out of 300,000 words of stuff.
So I imagine, therefore, your initial draft changes a whole heap, basically, before it gets to the finished product.
Well, one of the first things I always notice is my initial draft is crazy long, especially for a children's book. It'll be like 60,000 words or something. Yeah. And immediately, the first came off the rank is I have to get rid of at least half the words. So I've set myself a task right from the start. And they always end up at least half the length of what they started out as. And there's lots of, I have to try and find, the themes and the story within all that as well as I go along. And in that process of working out what I can cut, what I can't, I start to realise what's working and what's good, and hopefully end up with a good 30,000 word story in the end, not a 60,000 word story, which no one would publish and no one would buy because that'd be way too long.
Fair enough. Fair enough too. Adam, there's a heck of a lot of silliness in your books, in both Huckabee Falls and Twin Spin. Can you tell me a little bit about the power of silliness?
I love how silliness gets your defences down. Like when you're reading a silly book, you can get delivered a good message without realising that you're getting delivered a good message because you're having fun and laughing, and then you get good themes and good messages through that without even realising it. So it's sort of controlled silliness and slipping in some messages without people even realising that they're in there. That's the sort of stuff I love to do. And I think text publishing and winning the text prize and letting me do a trilogy of Huckabee Falls books really let me explore my silly side. And I just want to keep doing that, I think. Just keep being silly and trying to make kids laugh. And if they can have a good lesson along the way, well, that'll be good too.
Yeah, never stop the silliness. That's what I say.
That's right. The power of silliness, yes. I think it was Andy Griffith. I'm going to just drop that name there.
Yeah,
Andy Griffith.
I heard that.
Said, the power of silliness. He said, no, I've dropped his name, but I can't remember his exact quote now, but he's basically saying the power of silliness. I'll just give him a little bit more promotion because he needs it. You know, no one's ever heard of him. And, but he was basically saying keep going and using the power of silliness to tell stories. And I think that's very true.
So speaking of silliness, there'll be plenty of silliness on display at Readings Kids on May the 9th in Melbourne, where you're going to be celebrating the Huckabee Falls trilogy. What can we expect from that event?
Well, as we're doing, it's all top secret, but we're doing a big event that is going to be celebrating the whole trilogy. I'm coming over to Melbourne and can't wait. It's going to be lots of fun.
And it's likely to be weird too. I'll give everyone the tip.
I think weirdness is guaranteed. Yep.
Great. And before you go, Adam, can you give us a hint about what you're working on? I know often this is top secret and we can't give away too much, but can you give us a little hint about what's next for Adam Cece?
Well, I am writing a new book at the moment, which hopefully will be a new series, and it's about, I'm returning to my detective roots. So just like Wesley Booth's Super Sleuth, my first book, I'm writing a new book about a new detective called Violet Dark. Yes, a young junior detective. She calls herself a PI, a primary school investigator, which everyone keeps telling her should be PSI, but she likes PI, sound of PI better. Yeah. And Violet Dart is her name. And I don't think I've said that anywhere else. So that is an exclusive.
Ooh, we like exclusives here on the Kidlit Club.
Dart, that's right. I don't think I've said that name out loud to anyone else before. So there you go, Violet Dart.
Great. Well, looking forward to that hitting the shelves. That'll be good. So, Adam, thank you very much for chatting with us, and best of luck with the Huggabee Falls trilogy. It is a ripper, and also Twin Spin. So, best of luck with it all, Adam.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for having me.
And also, I'll just munch on some Cece's in tribute to you.
I should add some Cece's as well. That's got to be my gimmick. I should use more because you get a lot of mileage out of that joke. It never gets old.
I certainly have got a lot of mileage out of it. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
Well, that was Adam Cece, and it was great to have a chat with him. And the latest book in the series is The Utterly Indescribable Thing That Happened in Huggabee Falls, which has got me fascinated.
Yeah, it was really nice to hear you chatting with him, actually. I'd met him once in Adelaide at a festival. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, it's great to see his books are doing so well.
Yes. So thank you very much, Adam, for having a chat with us. And Sal, you can have your choice. I was hoping you'd like a Turkish delight or something. Fair enough. You've got to look after number one in this business.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.